This was a weird issue, but still loads of fun, even though unfortunately it features probably one of the main things from this X-Men era that I hate the most. The X babies. I'll be honest, every time that I hear that the X babies are featured in a book, even like when it got into like the 90s with Scott Liddell, I'd either take like weeks, maybe even months to finally read it. And even then I tend to read it as fast as I can because I cannot stand the freaking X babies. I don't know what Claremont's obsession with turning the X-Men into kids was because yeah, not my cup of tea. But anyway, this is called Performance. This is Chris Claremont writing, Arthur Adams penciling, Terry Austin inks, Petra, I can never pronounce her name, Petra Scotisi, I believe, colorist, Tom Orzechowski doing the lettering, and Nasanti editor, and Jim Shooter editor in chief. Big names on this book. The print date on it was January 1987, even though it says 1986. There. Oh, okay. This is the Danger Room, heart of a secret training complex buried 30 meters below Professor Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. Probably the most exclusive private academy in the world, because its students are all mutants, gifted at birth with extraordinary physical or mental abilities. Here, in large measure, they learn how to properly use them. Now, at this point in history, for those of you that haven't been kind of keeping up with the channel or really know a lot about X-Men lore, at this point, Xavier was seemingly dying and went off into Shi'ar space to heal and left the school in Magneto's charge. So he is the leader of the New Mutants at this point. And man, was that a bumpy ride as we kind of start going through that time in history. And it's just interesting to see him go from how he's mopped the floor. I mean, the X-Men always win, but seeing how he's able to, with his Omega level powers, mop the X-Men just single-handedly. And essentially that's kind of what happens here, where Nightcrawler tries to do an attack on him. He's like, Magneto has Wolverine trapped in some sort of energy stream. No problem. I'll simply teleport him out of there. But as Nightcrawler disappears with his teammate, he discovers, to his dismay, that the Master of Magnetism has established a force barrier around the room, preventing him from rematerializing inside. And then he just pulls up the floor on Colossus and Rogue. And I just love this smug look. A most unsatisfactory performance, X-Men. Let us begin again. Overlooking the huge room is the observation booth, whose systems monitor and control what occurs below. Present are two of the school's novices teams, the New Mutants, Doug Cypher and Roberto da Costa, plus a new arrival from England, telepath, Elizabeth Braddock. Now, I'm not sure how far along this is in canon. This would be for Betsy's appearances. I don't know if this would be a second, because her first U.S. appearance was in New Mutants Annual 11. We've gone over it. I can't remember the issue number. But there was a first appearance prior to that with her being with the Brian Braddock and the Braddock Corps, and she became blind and then became a puppet in the hands of Mojo in the New Mutants Annual. And so here she's still getting used to who she is. And I love how Bobby, of course, pathetic. We've done better on lots of occasions. By what right are they X-Men and not us? They're older, Bobby. Not Shadowcat. She's not even 15. They've been here longer. That isn't fair. So what else is new? And then I love how Betsy, because at this point, umpteen years later, we see her as this confident, kick-ass ninja. I mean, I know they just recently put her back in her body, which I thought was kind of silly, because her merging with Quanon actually changed and made the character really, really interesting. But she says here, and where, I wonder, do I belong? With the novices as a student or among the X-Men? What does make the difference between the two teams? Now, if you guys can help me out from this issue onward, is it during the first issue? I can't remember the Uncanny X-Men issue, but is it the first part of the Fall of the Mutants where she officially becomes a team member? I can't remember for the life of me. But anyway, while that's happening, the crowd roars, cheering every shot, every word, every thought. This is another world where humanity is a dirty word reserved for the dirtiest of people. To walk upright, to have a spine, is to be a slave. To rule, one must be spineless. Before she came to Xavier's school, Betsy was the pet of the Lord of the Wild Way, the lifebringer Mojo. She was also blind. Mojo gave her the gift of sight, but like all his presents, it possessed a wicked little wrinkle. Betsy's eyes are cameras, transmitting everything she sees, hears, thinks, feels back to Mojo. He's marked her masterfully and made her a star. In return, unwillingly, he's making him rich. And every time I hear Mojo's voice, I always think of the original animated series because he had that high pitchedness to him. And I love how the color scheme here and the use of the very heavy lines to we've seen Mojo before this, but just the way to introduce the villain of the book to kind of put Shiva, and I can't remember, or Shiva, Spiral, and I can't remember this guy's name off the top of my head. It's Mr. something or other. And it doesn't say, of course. But anyway, and it references right back. It says, for that story, see New Mutants Annual. It doesn't tell you the number. Thanks, Ann. So it can't be that long afterwards. And essentially, he wants more ratings, and the X-Men bring them in. Where's your sense of aesthetic hunger, wonder, glory? Have you no soul, budgeteer? He's what you made him, screw loose, as we all are. Of course, you would have it any other way. I am an artiste, my ever twisted spiral. To make my reality's dreams cost is no object. Easy to say until you run out. Poverty, ruin, delightful concepts. Perhaps I should try them. And of course, they serve him, but they all, of course, have their own machinations, especially Spiral. Because I've been told, and I'm not sure where this is discovered. I don't know if it's in the Longshot miniseries, if you all can kind of help me out there, but apparently Spiral and Longshot used to be lovers. And at this point, another thing canonically that I'm a little confused on is I believe Longshot issue 1, the miniseries that Ann DeSanti did, is the first appearance of Longshot. But I think this book, because it says here, introducing the newest X-Men, Longshot. I think this is the first time he joined the X-Men. Because just out of nowhere, he plops right into the danger. And of course, everyone just kind of, at least the ladies, kind of start to fawn around him. And they're not sure what to do, especially with all this slime around them. And keep that in mind because it becomes important later. As the next day, the X-Men run into Kitty's room. And they're like, what's the ruckus? Ileana, why'd you yell? See for yourself, Danny. Only don't get too close. Lockheed's a little tense. So where's the problem? Look again, Mirage. Look closer. Stop staring. Nothing's wrong. Leave me alone. And of course, enter the X-Babies. And from a storytelling standpoint, I can see this. What's the word I'm looking for? I think paradigm shift in terms of power, because the X-Men, where remember Bobby was bitching about not being able to step up, how they were able to take on Magneto and whatnot. He says, so why do they get to be X-Men and we're not? So from a storytelling point of view, that's interesting because now the roles shift in power. The paradigm shift here is that the New Mutants are older than the X-Men. And it's really up to them to figure out what the hell happened. And what I love is how Doug's kind of starting to put the pieces together. You know, he's always complaining that he was not a powerful mutant like the rest of them, but he's basically like the Q, you know, the one that did all the gadgets for James Bond. In my opinion, he's always been like the Q of the X-Men. And so he starts to investigate. And he says, we don't want to get covered with the slime from the danger room. It may be contaminated. So he says, Locke, let's merge. He's like, negative. Beware, self-friend, Doug. Continued repetition of self-merge will infect you with transmode virus. Soul friend will you no longer be human, but will become techno-organic like self. The X-Men need our help, Warlock. It's my choice. My risk. And I think the issue, the Doug Locke Chronicles, I think that was Willis Portacio that wrote that. I love that they kind of, after Doug's death, and then at the end of well, spoilers, we're still going through the extinction agenda, but at the end, there's a little hint between Cypher and Doug. And I like that Willis Torchio kind of took this, the Phalanx Parallax, whatever that event was called, and then brought Doug back. So I just love how seeing all these little seeds that Claremont added back in the day, and then all the X-Writers through the 90s implemented them in their own different ways. It's just a great little way to keep the modern mythos and the history of what came before added. And he goes, wowee, I do love seeing the world through your eyes. It's like the rest of my life, I'm almost asleep. It's the only time I really, truly awake. So he's looking and he goes, this is something designed then for a specific purpose. Logical deduction, comparative, similarity established between current energy matrices and those recently perceived around transformed youthful humans. And so they kind of find out that whatever happened to him came from the Wild Ways, or Mojo Universe, as I call it. Now the X-Men take off, of course, and this part I start to kind of go, yeah, because X-Babies and bickering, blah, 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 blah. But then there's this creepy thing where they hunt down Mojo and they go, golly gumbucks, pretty. Close up, it's even more beautiful. Please, sir, may we come in and play? Of course, little Wind Rider, that's why I'm here, to play with you. And so, kind of like this page right here where the X-Men take off to try to do things on their own, even though they're young, and they crash Xavier's car. I think it was 70s, 80s, and the 90s. I think they stopped in the 2000s. But back in the day, during late night television, there was commercials, and they'd have celebrities come on doing these PSAs, and they'd say, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? And so I kind of see that in this sense. And it's just creepy as hell, the what do you call it? Going from these big, hopeful smiles to this very creepy, eerie entity, which then leads to the New Mutants trying to figure out where the rest of the X-Men are. And this part's so where does it start? Is heaven knows what that creep will do to him. Chances are Sam will be nasty. Question is what do we do about it? We must save them, Ilyana, if we can. Big if, Rain. We have to try, Doug, but not as the New Mutants. Stakes are too high. We can't afford any screws. If we're to take the X-Men's place, we can't act like kids anymore. So again, going back to, even though the X-Babies irk my Gurk, I like that it's Danny, co-leader of the New Mutants, saying that we can't do this as the student team. We have to step it up, which is a great moment when you read it in its entirety. But she says, these are our graduation costumes for tonight and maybe the rest of our lives. Oh, great spirit, I hope not. I pray not. We are the X-Men. So it's cool to see them step up, because that's exactly what the New Mutants were supposed to be. And that's one thing that I will say about comic timelines that I hate the most is they introduce like a younger generation and they never step up because comic continuity, they want to sell books. So they keep Bruce Wayne 35 forever. They keep Dick Grayson in his 20s forever. And it kind of feels the same way with the New Mutants, where they were starting to grow. I mean, there was a time where Scott Liddell took Sam and put him on the X-Men team. He graduated up. But then when they did Krakoa, they're back to being kind of young, which Chamberlain was young too. So ever. But anyway, I like that idea, but these costumes, oh my God, no. Just no. I mean, I can kind of see where maybe Rob Liefeld got some ideas for Cannonball's uniform moving into the X-Force era. But Danny's, Magma's, Cypher, and then Warlock. Warlock's just the weirdest. Magic's is kind of cool. Sunspot looks kind of like, to me, like John Travolta from not Boogie Nights. What the hell is that movie? Saturday Night Fever. But again, this is 1987, so you have to kind of look at it through those lenses, because these outfits are just, in my personal opinion, I think they're terrible. And like I said, maybe Magma's cool. No. Karma's is all right. Magic's kick-ass. Rain, okay, it is what it is. And then Danny's is just, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And you can see, even though they're stepping up, of course, Berto has the cocksureness about him. Rain, the youngest, still a little insecure about herself. So there's like this mixed feelings. And I love how Danny notices the looks in their faces. And she goes, it wasn't supposed to be like this. This moment's happening too fast, too soon. We're not ready. But then I guess no one ever is. We'll start our search in Central Park where the police found the car. And so I like that in this sense. It harkens back, in my opinion, to Giant Size X-Men #1, where the original X team was captured, which is what was the jumping point that Lynn Wein used for introducing the new X-Men. But at that point, they grabbed Sunfire, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Banshee, Wolverine, Storm, and they had no training. They didn't really know each other, and Professor X just sent them straight up to Krakoa. And the only one that had any type of field experience in that regard was Scott. And there's a lot of bumbling if you go back and read it. We've gone over it, so make sure to check it out. But then when we get into the Claremont era starting at 94, I think we've gone over 94, 95, and maybe 96. You can see that the original X-Men leave, and Scott then starts to train them. And so in this regard, they have a little bit of experience under their belt for things that have happened, but they're not where they should be. So I like that echoing back to what happened. Now, the rest of the book kind of feels like a stage play because they go into Central Park and there's a Shakespeare on the lawn going on. And so the battle, of course, is on stage and no one's really knowing if what's going on. Is this part of the show? Is this like an interpretation? But of course, the X-Babies and Wolverine just looks absolutely terrible. Let the play truly begin. The X-Men. You bet your butt brain. Let me at him. I want to gut him, slice him, dice him, break him, burst him, hurt him. I'm tired of waiting. Wolverine wants to kill. Yeah. Whatever. And then Spiral's kind of, so in a sense, helping, but Julia's, of course, has her own, what do you call it? Plans. False hope, false boy. Nobody moves, nobody leaves till the final curtain drops on your worthless, misbegotten lives. My pixie dust will see to that. Ensure you love every minute. Now, I talk about in modern books, I hate the use of meta humor because it feels, what's the word I'm looking for? It feels forced. It doesn't feel authentic. And it just feels like just to get a cheap chuckle. And then I go back and I talk about how a lot of the writers back in the day, both at Marvel and DC, would make you feel like you're part of the game. They would throw jokes and whatnot and kind of do some self-deprecating humor at themselves to make you laugh. Make you feel like you were in on the X Club or whatever book you were reading. And that's what I feel like right here. So we have all this drama happening. And then all of a sudden we see these two legs and he goes, Walter, do you hear croaking? Be real, Wheezy. You think frogs go to the theater? And you're thinking, what the hell's that all got to do with anything? So I think at this point in real life, I think Walter Simonson married Louise Jones, who became Louise Simonson. And so back in the day, they called her Wheezy. So I just love this little joke of this being Walter Simonson and Louise Simonson. Just a very fun little way for the character, for longtime fans at this point, be like, hey, I know those guys. One of them's writing Thor, and one of them helps with X-Men and the New Mutants. It's just a cool little thing. And then the battle begins, and the artwork's beautiful, even though I hate Warlock's outfit. And I just love how he kind of gets this look like he's not sure what to do. Alarm, self, techno-organic nature. And of course, he's supposed to look big and strong like Superman, but you can see that he's still inexperienced. And the battle is absolutely phenomenal. I don't want to give away too much of it, and I just love how at the top of this theater, again, almost literally making this a stage play, Mojo's large and in charge, dominating the frame. And then, of course, everyone is under Spiral's, spell, and so they're just clapping right along. And it's just a great little read in that regard. We get Longshot as part of the team. We get to see how the New Mutants would be able to finally step up if they needed to. And yeah, the artwork, even though this is an annual, from what I understand, annuals happen mostly in the summertime so that, kids are off school, gave them more pages to read and enjoy. And you really do get your money's worth in this book. And I love, of course, Kurt being the thespian that he is, actually gets to shine in this. And of course, as we come to an end, they have to put their uniforms away. It says, do we have to lose our new outfits? It's like we're becoming X-babies again, the kid gang, instead of heroes in our own right. Is that what you want, Doug? Is that what you want, Douglas, to be a hero? Is it so bad? A life, Shin? Mon ami, it's no life at all. Then why do you stay? Be patient, pal. Our turn will come. Yo, Bobby, what's the matter? Figured you'd be standing tall and strutting after that victory. What victory? We're new mutants, didn't accomplish a blessed thing. It was the X-Men as usual who saved the day. Do tell. What would have happened, hot shot, if we hadn't been there? Mojo would have won, Bobby. We may not be ready to join the X-Men or take their place. But last night, we made a difference. And so again, even though I hate the X-Babies in and of themselves, to see the New Mutants step up, and again, as I was talking about like the parallels between this book and X-Men, Giant Size X-Men, the cover echoes it right off the bat. And so even though the costumes are ugly, that's neither here nor there. Excellent X-Men read, guys. And even though one thing that kind of does bug me is even though this is the introduction of Longshot into the team, he doesn't get to do a whole lot. We don't get to see a lot of the questions that Betsy asked herself at the beginning, which is really kind of irksome. But still, for the New Mutants to step in and show that even though they are still green, they are willing, they have the power, and they know how to work mostly as a team. And we can start seeing them come into their own up to this point. So, all new X-Men number 10 annual. Definitely one of those books that you want in your X-Men collection. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is that get your action figures and comics and grab this issue. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little mutant bell, next subscribe. That was when you can upload content. You guys get notified. Come to the channel. We love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I will make sure that the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading and happy hunting, everyone.